and my dad described his behavior hyper vigilant, would not go into the woods. They lived in White Mountains, which is the woods, but like he wouldn't like cross the line of like, you know, the fenced yard, things of that nature. And so he was clearly traumatized by his experience. And then later on he opened up and talked more about some of those things. So that was like my initial like first case I heard about that was compelling. And then the second case I will say that is probably the most compelling, and I'm going to say all this outside of my own experiences, which I don't think are like that compelling to the world, but obviously to myself, like they are compelling. But the second case would be the Ariel school case. And I just think that one is probably one of the most compelling cases because of the amount of children that saw the craft and saw the beings and their description of it and their young age and the documentation.
That was in Africa, right?
That was in Africa and Zimbabwe.
Kids, right?
Yeah.
Zimbabwe, right. No.
Yeah.
So 3 things on that. Those kids' crayon drawings, I don't know, I'm sure you've seen that. They're not thinking that up. What you can do. So this is a thing that I've run into people like, I'm not a humble guy, right? I try to be humble, right? But I'm not a humble guy, right? And when I have conversations with people, if I just say, hey, look, man, can we just admit something happened, right?
Right.
When they're like, no, nothing happened. Okay, well then we can't talk, because if something happened, we can talk about where they came from, what they were, what they wanted all day long. But if you're not willing to at least say to me that, okay, yeah, those kids saw something happened, right? And say that that's weird or that's out of place, then you can't, then you can't have a conversation with that, because their mind's already closed, right? And
right.
Look, I don't know about you guys, but like, for years, I'm talking 20, 30 plus years, 20 years, I took massive ridicule saying the aliens were real. And those people now, they don't talk to me anymore, right? Because now, like, their precious government says they're real. And then, like, I'm like, right? So they don't want to talk anymore, right? So they don't talk to me anymore. And also, too, the Travis Walton case, I think, was the first UFO movie I ever saw. And it scared the you-know-what out of me, right? Like, the documentary. Like, I was like, that was crazy, right? And then for on your end, Ariel, too, I was just had a conversation about those Phoenix lights. And the number one thing that those people sleep on about that event, that craft was massive. I'm talking about it was not even close to comprehend what you think, like saying it's like a football field. It was way bigger than that. And a lot of people saw it. A lot of people saw it, right? So yeah, that's awesome right there. Cool, great. All right, that's question number 2. I got one more for y'all. Right, I got y'all for like 45 more minutes now. I got you. All right.
Yeah.
So here's another thing too, and so I'll tell you real quick. You know which one? Like, I've seen things, right? I grew up in Upper East Tennessee along the Appalachian Mountains. I've seen weird stuff. Like, and we'll talk off camera too. I've seen some weird things, right? But something. You ever seen did you see the jellyfish UAP video that was going around? That freaked me out. That totally freaked me out, man. Actually, my buddy Scott is Mysterious Planet. I highly recommend. I'll give you guys all the contact. I highly recommend you pull him on your podcast. He is like a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the to the phenomenon. I was in the military, and so were you, Chris. And that thing going across the base, when we talked about it, I know what it was tracking. That was a Sea Whiz cannon that was tracking it. And that thing can shoot a Pepsi can out of the sky doing Mach 4, no problem, right? And the fact that it could not lock onto that
object
that no one could see, right, over an active military base, combat ready, that freaked me out, man. And the weird thing that I told Scott about is like, what did he want? Like, we were like totally on his pay no mind list, just like just cruising across. Like going to the grocery store, I guess, man. Going to the ocean. I don't know what he was doing, right? So that was crazy. Yeah, that freaked me out, man. So it's a pretty good podcast on there. We talked about it in detail and we break it down, but it was, that was a weird one, right? Okay.
Yeah, that one is, I have to say, I tell Ariel, I have my own jellyfish story.
Yeah.
It's not quite the shape of the jellyfish,
Mhm.
but I had a sighting after a San Diego air show. So I've
Okay.
also heard since then that there's lots of sightings
Mhm.
during or after air shows. But it was an object that looks similar, had like more of a square top, and then it had like it looked like strings almost hanging down,
Mhm.
uh, almost like a strange hot air balloon, but just
Yeah.
gray. And
Mhm.
anyways, just the way the things hung down, and it floated across the sky, you know, against the wind in a very transverse manner, not changing elevation as it went.
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.